Morning. It's Natasha N.K.O, 27th of June 2026, Saturday. It's 10:32 a.m. Reading on from Brothers and Sisters. I last read chapter 5. In chapter 5, Esther is showing us her strategies for dealing with white colleagues who don't, what's the word? Who don't respect the authority she has in her role. She talks about her experiences of hostility, or her feelings of hostility towards white people when she meets her friend Vanessa's neighbour. Yeah, that's it. She meets this old white lady, Vanessa's neighbour, and the neighbour judges her because she's black and a stranger, but then she softens when she realises that she's one of the friendly blacks. I'll read the final paragraph of chapter 5 and then read on. It's talking about Esther when she got home after hanging out with Vanessa and clarifying that she doesn't go out with guys who don't have money and stuff. So it says, when she finished, because she's back home, when she finished, she went upstairs, put a Jane Fonda tape in her VCR and began exercising. Halfway through her workout, she stopped and sat on the floor, rubbing away the burning sensation in her thighs. When the sharp pain dulled, her entire body seemed to go limp. She took a bath, then climbed into bed. Just before sleep claimed her, Vanessa's voice echoed in her mind. How are you ever going to find somebody? It was a question that made her writhe with sweat and grapple against the strangling sheets as the night dragged on. Chapter 6. The loan department of Angel City National Bank occupied the entire midsection of the first floor of the downtown building, directly in front of the beleaguered real estate branch, which was slowly sinking under the weight of the biggest depression in housing anyone could remember. If the operations department, located in the front, was a bank's stepchild, the lending side, home of an elite corps of highly trained technicians who proudly possessed the requisite MBAs, was its favourite son. In lending, unlike operations, privacy was prized, and each spacious office came with opaque walls and a large oak veneered door, complete with a lock. There were 6 of these doors, and on a Wednesday morning, a little before 8, Mallory pressed her body against the wall outside the largest and most imposing of all the offices, the working quarters of Charles Weber. The door in question wasn't locked, was in fact cracked just wide enough to allow Mallory to see the branch manager and senior loan officer standing by his desk. Both fury and panic etched in his trembling jaw. You heard me, he screamed. The son of a bitch has had me transferred to South Central. Said it's for the good of the bank to ensure racial diversity in our workforce. Can you believe this shit? Hell no, I'm not going. Mallory could see him circle his desk, like a wildcat about to spring. It's all part of his big restructuring plan. The entire system has been affected. It's like bussing for the NBA set, Charles said bitterly. That son of a bitch. If Preston Sinclair wants to be the emperor of diversity, I'll be damned if it's going to be at my expense. I'm not going to take this. I'll sue for reverse discrimination. There's no way in hell I'm going to work in that jungle. The next thing Mallory heard was the sound of Charles slamming down the receiver. She headed straight to Esther's office. The news she had was too good to keep. That same morning, Preston Sinclair was being interviewed by a very bored Gazette reporter. In the days since April 29, the newspaper had developed a voracious appetite for post-riot stories, especially ones enhanced by the promise of the ever-elusive happy ending the city was seeking. Hope was what Los Angeles wanted to read about, and the paper's headlines attempted to package this too rare commodity in words that began with R-E, recovery, renewal, and of course, rebuild. In summation, as a first prong of our diversity program, we are lending one of Angel City's senior managers from our downtown branch to the South Central branch for an unspecified length of time. This is the initial step toward a full-fledged exchange of managers who work in areas of high minority concentration with those who work in communities that are less diverse. What we hope to accomplish ultimately is not only an enhancement of skills for all managers, but the development of mutual respect for the diversity that is represented at Angel City National Bank. Preston's smile was a flourish, an exclamation mark. The reporter frowned and adjusted his glasses. This non-story certainly didn't deserve a photo, but his editor was insisting there be one. This way, Mrs. Sinclair. Preston turned toward the photographer and leaned forward in his chair. In his eyes was a look of such earnest sincerity that he appeared more like a minister of the cloth than a powerful executive. In fact, his expression was the result of years of imitating the pious mien of his father as he preached from his Sunday pulpit. What he was never able to mimic was the burning devotion and humility that were the heartbeat of his father's soul. Preston found that in most cases, few people could tell the imitation from the real thing, certainly not the stoop-shouldered, bespectacled reporter the Gazette had sent over. Preston's smile was pure zirconium as a photographer snapped the first picture, but when he began circling, looking for an angle for a second shot, the thought occurred to Preston that he might be squandering an opportunity, a superior photo opportunity, as it were. Several weeks from now, he hoped to announce that Humphrey Boone would be joining the Angel City National Bank team in a newly created position that would make him the highest-ranking minority in the organisation and probably in the city. He didn't want to jump the gun, of course, but he was making a black man the proverbial offer he couldn't refuse. When he made that announcement, he wanted his picture and Boone's on the front page of the business section. Only now he wondered if the Gazette would run another illustrated article about him so soon after this one. The flash popped several more times, and then Preston rose, extending his hand first to the photographer and then to the reporter, who was checking through the notes he had scrawled so furiously during the interview. Preston hesitated, then smiled again. He gave the young man a pat on his back. Great questions. Very sharp. Very sharp. Just one more thing, Mr. Sinclair, the reporter said. There was something so smug about Angel City's president that he felt he deserved a curveball. There are many minorities, and white women as well, who assert that American corporations are racist institutions that limit their progress because of their gender and the colour of their skin. Does a new program at Angel City National hope to address some of the inequities inherent in your institution? Let's see you squirm, the reporter thought. He held his pencil aloft and eyed Preston. The zirconian smile reappeared automatically. Admit nothing. Preston silently reminded himself as he searched for just the right response, something weighty and, well, gubernatorial. Ooh, gubernatorial. Gubernatorial. Yeah, gubernatorial is being a political leader, but it's specifically being a governor in America. He stared into the reporter's eyes until the young man looked away. The United States isn't a perfect country. Its institutions reflect that imperfection. The important thing is not to point a finger at flaws, but to attempt to correct them. There is no room for a glass ceiling at Angel City National Bank. A decent quote, the reporter thought, but not great, but decent. Now, young man, my assistant will be calling you with another story in a few weeks, Preston said, holding the door open. I look forward to that, Mrs. Sinclair. When Preston was alone again, he pounded on the desk with his fists several times. Yes, he was carving out his political persona, a fiscally conservative, moderate Republican who believed in giving everyone a fair shake. And he wasn't just being self-serving, he told himself, as he thought about the diversity program he was creating. The new policies were for the good of the bank. They made good business sense. That was all he asked of anything. On her way to Esther's office, Mallory passed the coffee machine and saw Kirk Madison pouring a sickening amount of sugar into his cup. From several feet away, the shine on his thick cordovans, I've got to find out what is a cordovan, Cordovans. Listen to this, cordovans generally refer to items made from a rare ultra-premium leather, a shell cordovan harvested from the fibrous muscle beneath the rump of a horse. From several feet away, the shine on his thick cordovans almost blinded her. When he saw Mallory, he waved and then motioned her over. Kirk reminded Mallory of a big, over-anxious puppy, forever nipping at the heels of whoever he thought had dog biscuits. "Have you heard that Charles is being transferred?" he whispered, barely able to contain his glee. "Play dumb," Mallory told herself. "No," she said, trying to look surprised. "Are you serious? I hear he'll be gone in a couple of weeks. Is it a promotion or a lateral?" He looked around him before he spoke. Satisfied that no one was listening, he said, "He's going to the South Central branch." "That sounds like a demotion to me." He winked at Mallory and then grinned. Mallory could tell that he believed he was the natural successor to Charles's position. She tried to envision Kirk as her boss. At least he had a wife. Presumably he wouldn't come to work horny every day. She'd stand a better chance of advancing under Kirk than with Charles, and maybe Esther could finally come over to the loan department. She felt guilty that the black woman hadn't been able to make that switch. Might as well get in a good word now. She leaned over the coffee pot and whispered in Kirk's ear, "I hope you get his position. You deserve it." Kirk beamed. Mallory smiled somewhat seductively, even though she felt like gagging. As hard as she tried not to do it, flattering a man came so easily to her, and there didn't seem to be a feminist alternative that could get the same results. The door to Esther's office was open. "Excuse me, Esther. I didn't mean to interrupt. I have superb news," Mallory said, stepping inside and closing the door. Esther looked up and then leaned back in her seat. "I thought you might like to know that Charles is leaving downtown. He's being transferred to South Central." Esther's body lurched forward. "What?" "Let's have a drink after work and I'll give you the details." Esther nodded. The waitress at Patty's had a terrible perm. Mallory noticed that she and Esther followed the middle-aged woman toward the rear of the dim, quiet restaurant. Across from them, at another table for two, a pair of women, one black, one white, sat drinking wine and talking softly. As Mallory watched, Esther nodded and said, "How are you doing?" to the black woman, and they smiled at each other. "Dinner?" the waitress asked, looking directly at Mallory as she handed menus to the two women. "Just drinks," Esther said. Her voice was firm, businesslike, and Mallory detected a trace of annoyance. "What are you having, Mallory?" "Oh, I'm celebrating, honey." "I'll have champagne," Mallory said. "Two," Esther told the waitress, who nodded. "So," Esther said, after the waitress left. "So," Mallory echoed. "He's really leaving. Hallelujah." The two women giggled. "He is on his way to head up the South Central branch for an indeterminate length of time," Mallory said. "From what I understand, this is part of Angel City's new program aimed at enhancing diversity at the bank. They're supposed to be planning all kinds of managerial exchanges to balance the personnel racially. I understand they even plan on instituting racial awareness and sensitivity classes." Oh, let me say that again. "I understand they even plan on instituting racial awareness and sensitivity classes." "Who's responsible for all this?" "I hear that it's coming from the very, very top," Mallory said. "Sinclair?" "Evidently he's committed to change," Mallory said. "Do you know who's replacing Charles?" Esther said. Mallory shook her head. "If it's an exchange, does that mean that his South Central counterpart is coming downtown?" Mallory pondered Esther's question. She started to say that she didn't think anyone at South Central, the smallest branch in the system, would have the experience necessary to handle downtown. But she thought her words might sound to Esther like a put-down of that branch, or maybe of the people there, even though that wasn't what she meant. But if Sinclair was genuinely committed to the diversity campaign, there was a chance he had that kind of shuffle in mind. The thought of some manager from South Central getting preferential treatment over her bothered Mallory. After all, women had been denied opportunities for centuries. "Hey, why so glum?" Esther asked. "We should be celebrating." "I'd like to propose a toast." Esther raised her glass. Mallory picked up her drink and their two glasses clinked. "To the end of Charles Weber," Esther said. "Hear, hear. May I get you ladies anything else?" Mallory looked up to see the Frisbee smiling at her. "We'll have another round," Esther said. When the drinks came, they again toasted Charles Weber's departure, then lingered a while, sharing office gossip for nearly an hour. The more they laughed, the more Esther felt herself relaxing. You care for another round? Frisbee asked, adding up the total as she spoke. No, that's it, Esther said. Actually, no, that's it, said Esther. The waitress nodded at her, finished her calculations, and placed the check on the table directly in front of Mallory. Before Mallory could reach for it, Esther snatched it away with fingers as curved and violent as an angry cat's. I'll take it, she said sharply. Mallory's pale grey eyes met Frisbee's blue ones, and each silently posed the same question. What's the problem? Esther seemed suddenly furious, but Mallory was afraid to ask why. Moments later, when the two women across from them collected their purses and rose to leave, the black woman patted Esther's shoulder very quickly as she walked by. Esther shook her head. Mallory realised then that the black woman knew what she and Frisbee didn't know and could never know without asking. Esther slapped her gold card on the little plastic tray. The waitress took it and disappeared. Mallory sat stiff and silent in her chair, trepidation rippling through her throat. She wanted to ask the question, but she was afraid that the look of outrage in Esther's eyes would intensify and begin to encompass her. But they could never be good friends unless she was willing to risk her feelings. Mallory leaned across the table. Esther? The laugh she heard came from a few tables away, yet it seemed closer, much closer. The heavy male chuckle was so familiar. She felt a slow burning agony creeping through her body, as the strong laughter was echoed by giggles as frail as lace. Mallory spun around. Hayden Lear sat at a table, drinking with a middle-aged woman. His wife. Mallory? Esther asked. Hayden. Mallory's voice was a whimper. Hayden. People at the closest table stopped talking to turn and look at her. Mallory pushed back her chair. Her entire body was trembling. She was crying as she began to walk toward the laughter, toward the table in the back where Hayden Lear sat with his arm draped casually across his wife's shoulders. His wife, who didn't understand him. His wife, who didn't like sex. Mallory took another step, and a body, as strong and impenetrable as a wall, stood before her. No, girlfriend. Girlfriend, now let's not act a fool in here. Mallory felt Esther's fingers circling her wrists, clamping down on them like handcuffs. She let herself be led toward the door. Mallory heard Hayden's laughter until she was outside, and her own sonorous wailing drowned out the sounds in her head. She followed Esther, unaware of where she was going, until she heard the car door open and found herself sitting in the passenger seat of Esther's silver BMW. She covered her face with her hands and bawled. She wasn't aware of how much time had passed. She just knew that her own crying was the only sound she heard, and that the pressure from Esther's fingers around her shoulder was as steady as her own heartbeat. I must look a mess, Mallory said, when she finally stopped crying. Esther handed her a tissue, and she wiped her nose. No, Esther handed her a tissue, and she wiped her eyes and blew her nose. Thanks. You okay? Mallory nodded. Then she began sobbing again. When she was able to stop, she said, I'm sorry. It's okay. That was Hayden Lear, Mallory giggled a little. Everything looked blurry and out of focus. I think I lost my right contact, she said dully. It's probably in your eye, Esther said. She sidled up close to Mallory and peered into her eye. Look up, look down. There it is. Work it down with your finger. Mallory rotated her closed eye until she felt the contact slide into place, blinked until everything was in focus. He was my first boss, my mentor, and we've been having an affair for the last 4 years. The woman he was having such a great time with is his wife. I met her a few years ago. She's the bitch who's never there for him. Well, she seemed very much there this evening. Listen, Mallory, you don't have to... He says he's going to divorce her, Mallory said. He says that all the time. Girl, they all say that, Esther said softly. Look, this isn't any of my business. I love him, and I know that he loves me. I know that eventually we'll be together, Mallory said fiercely. I see you are living the life Aretha sings about. Esther said. Yeah. I see you are living the life Aretha sings about, Esther said with just a trace of a smile. Mallory gave her a blank look. I ain't never loved a man. Chain of Fools? Dr. Feelgood? Never mind. It's a black thing. You wouldn't understand. The words just slipped out. What? Nothing. She was sorry she'd spoken, that she'd crossed the line. Now she wanted to get back to the other side. Tell me. It's just an expression. Because I'm not black, I don't understand certain things about black people. Something like that. No offence. Mallory spoke softly. I'm not offended, Esther. Hayden was the first man who believed I had abilities. You got that when you were a little girl, I can tell. You're very self-assured. My family didn't expect anything from me other than that I be a pretty little girl and then a pretty big girl and then somebody's wife. I was smart, but that didn't matter to them. They didn't encourage me. Hayden did. He helped me get promoted into lending. I was just floundering before I met him. I owe him so much. You don't owe him a damn thing, Mallory. He's getting his. He's taking your youth, your time, your faith, your self-esteem. Mallory shrank away from the fervour in the black woman's voice. I know he is, Mallory said, her voice trembling. She began whimpering and then sobbed again. Esther leaned over and put her arms around Mallory's shoulders. Lord of mercy. Lawdmercy. Lord of mercy. She rubbed her back until Mallory was quiet again. Theirs were the only two cars left in the parking lot, and the sky around them was almost dark. I better get going, Mallory said. She really didn't want to leave. Her car was only a few steps away, but Esther drove her to it. She watched Mallory as she unlocked her door and got in the Lexus. She heard the motor and was about to drive off when Mallory honked her horn and rolled down her window. The air was still hot and gritty. Esther, I want to ask you something. When you were angry in the restaurant, was that a black thing I wouldn't understand? The light was on in Mallory's car, and Esther could see the kindness and concern brimming in the white woman's grey eyes. She turned away. It was nothing, she said. See you. She rolled up her window and drove off. Mallory watched the silver BMW as it turned out of the lot. Nothing? She recalled the set of Esther's mouth, the fire flashing in her glance, the way her hand snatched the check away. Nothing? She doesn't trust me. The words revolved around her mind in slow, faint circles. Mallory sat in the dark for a moment, thinking. Behind her, the Los Angeles skyline had an eerie yellow cast. Below her, the earth beneath the city put off trembling for yet another day. She doesn't trust me. As Mallory drove out of the lot, she wondered what it would take before Esther could trust her. End of chapter 6. That was chapter 6. Great. Thanks for listening.